Welcome to This Week in Money. I'm Jim Goddard. Today, Ross Clark from chartsandmarkets.com takes a look at the major markets. He tells us small caps are leading the way, energy has had a major rebound, and precious metals are doing well. And the Canadian dollar, why is it so hot? Ross will tell us. Trends Journal publisher Gerald Celente checks in from historic Kingston, New York. He fears we are in for the worst depression ever due to the panic over the coronavirus. He comments on gold, rigged markets, the U.S. dollar, interest rates, and Occupy peace. Do cosmic cycles affect the stock market? Ray Merriman from Merriman Market Analyst believes so, and he tells us why the first day of winter could be a very important date on your investment calendar. Plus, at the end of the show, we'll have a company showcase update from American Manganese President Larry Reaugh. We'll talk to Ross Clark right after this.
AMY.V Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, AMY.V's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at AMYresources.com.
Welcome to This Week in Money, the source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Ross Clark from chartsandmarkets.com, where you'll find insightful market commentary and timely technical analysis. You can also find him on Twitter at ChartsByRoss. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
It's good to be with you, and it's countdown to holidays.
The small caps must be celebrating.
They definitely are. I mean, this... an election that really was in question for the first week or so. Market didn't care less who it was going to be, and the small caps decided that they would be very, very happy with anything. Here we are. This is the classic time of year, right at the tail end, where if small caps start to come to life, then they really do take the leadership. I mean, we saw a lot of this back in the 1990s, probably 8 out of 10 years, the small caps, the Russell 2000, or the value line as we used to trade it back then, just would scream along on the upside. It would have small pauses into the middle of December, and then you get the Santa Claus rally. Well, here we are this year. You've got, since the election, you got the Dow and the S&P, NASDAQ up 11 or to maybe 14%. And the Russell's been making new highs day by day, not even having very much of a pause this week. So it's up 25% in a span of, what are we talking here, 6.5 weeks? So pretty good action there. I guess about the only sector that's really outpacing it would be the energies, where now you got a 40% move. And some of these Canadians, like a white cap, just excelling just beautifully on the upside. And it's been sort of the small cap names, even within energy, that have had the best runs. I would suspect that the bigger names, the Suncors, CNQs, and on the Canadian side, are going to see some more action. We did, kick in with British Petroleum on the U.S. Side there, right at the turn on the bottom, and it looks as though it's got maybe 10% more left in it, but it's been a pretty big run for those senior names as far as U.S. energies are concerned. So maybe a little bit of a time for a breather there.
Compared to the U.S. dollar, the Canuck buck is doing very well. What's the story behind that?
Well, commodity currency, it wasn't for a while. But now it seems to be back into that realm. We mentioned here in the last couple of weeks that the dollar was actually, showing strength relative to oil and relative to the agricultural commodities. And this week it was true to form, just tacked on another good move. But this is now with oil, starting to push towards $50. You've got the agricultural index, the DBA, that we got on board on that one back in June, July, and it's now had a pretty impressive run. They had a small pullback in the last week and a half into support, but it's just methodically working its way higher. And, until we see on the currency side the Canadian dollar underperforming the oil and the agricultural side, then trend is up for now. So there's no reason to turn negative on it, regardless of politics and everything else that people would want to use as excuses for a dollar to not move. We try and stay away from that side of the analysis and just look at the technicals, which so far so good.
How are precious metals doing?
A decent rally into the beginning of the week. We'd been looking for a 38 to 50% retracement rally in gold off of that early November low. Optimally, when you get the type of oversold reading we had simultaneously in gold and silver, you can expect that 5 to 8 day rally. And this one did it, I think there was an extra day in there in terms of making it more than 50% on the upside. Now, back in November, we had what we had looked for in silver in terms of we called it a pump and dump. You got a pump on the upside, looked like a breakout. It was really a false breakout. Then it dumped down to a new low, and then had that retracement along with gold here into early this week. Now, the optimum action for both precious metals is that out of December, you should be looking for a decent seasonal rally. And ideally, what we'd like to have is silver go back down, retest the lows of the last 2 weeks, and make a reversal from there. If that occurs, then clearly you want to be on board, and you want to be looking at the miners, either as the GDX or GDXJ for golds, or take a look at the silver ETFs. And if you can see a bit of a divergence there with the miners starting to outperform the metals at the bottom of the correction, then you get on board, because to say January into February tends to be a pretty good stretch when it comes to the precious metal side of the equation.
Ross, thank you so much for the update.
Nice to be with you, Jim.
My guest has been Ross Clark from chartsandmarkets.com, where you'll find insightful market commentary and timely technical analysis. Find him on Twitter at ChartsByRoss. Coming up, Gerald Celente, next on This Week in Money.
Always consult your investment professional before making any investment decision.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMY.V, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
This Week in Money is archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com.
Welcome back. My guest is Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, available online at trendsjournal.com. He's speaking to us from historic Kingston, New York. Gerald, it's great to have you back on This Week in Money.
Well, thank you for having me back.
Gerald, your new issue of Trends Journal is titled Top 10 Trends for 2021. Can you tell us about it, and how many pages are in this issue?
It's well over 80 pages, and top 10 trends of 2021 are just part of it. You know, we cover the world. We tell you what's going on economically, geopolitically. It's the only magazine in the world like it, and I'm not saying it because it's my magazine. If anyone could show me anything that comes close to it, you know, I'd love to see it, because what we're doing is we're telling people what's going on, what it means, and what's next. So, again, there's no magazine like this, and we're helping people prepare for the future, and we're looking at a future that you couldn't make up in a grade B movie. What they have done to destroy the global economy and lock it down is unprecedented in world history. So we're trying to help people move through that. And there will be opportunities as well. But this is really a time for true survivalism in every different manner of it.
The second wave of COVID-19 and lockdowns are hitting a number of countries, including Canada and some U.S. states. More and more whistleblowers are coming out and saying the narrative is not true. What are you hearing?
Well, it's not what we're hearing, it's what we're writing. And if you go back to the cover of our Trends Journal, January 28th, and let's go back to remember when this all began. They started freaking us out on Chinese Lunar New Year, Happy New Year, 2020. They showed us these videos of people collapsing in this place that nobody ever heard of called Wuhan Province, or the city of whatever. And our headline in the Trends Journal was Coronavirus, 106 dead in China, 1.4 billion still alive. What the hell are you telling me 106 people died or something? That filthy place where 1.5 million people die each year from air pollution, and all you little boys and girls with the masks on, and you went Chinese mask way, that's why they wear them, because the air is so filthy. And read the box, those little blue masks that you're wearing do nothing to prevent you from getting disease or infection, says it right there on the box. So, the whole thing has been hyped up by the media and taken advantage of by the politicians. We only go by the facts and the numbers. So if anybody could count to 10, maybe you could also understand what a 99.8% recovery rate means. Maybe you could figure it out in your head that over 50% of the people that have died have come from elder care homes. And all you little boys and girls in Canada, with your little dictator over there, the boy who would be a nobody if Daddy wasn't before him, Trudeau. What do you have over the average age of deaths up there is around about between 75 and 80 years old. Oh, and if you look at the data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 94% of the deaths, the people had 2.6 pre-existing chronic conditions. Oh, and the recovery rate for people 1 to 20 years old, as you put on all the masks of these little kids and freak them the hell out, recovery rate's only 99.997%. Got it? So everybody that's marching to the orders, all aboard, next train to Auschwitz, and don't forget to put on your mask.
COVID vaccines are about to roll out. There are concerns about the safety and what the vaccine is actually designed to do. Are people around you planning to get the shot?
No, nobody that I know will. But are they going to force us to get it? You had the New York State Bar Association. Who the hell are you little freaks? You damn lawyers. Who the hell are you to tell me what to do? Oh, they passed a resolution that everybody should get vaccinated, no religious exemptions allowed. And now the state government is passing one too. And you got it up there in Canada too. You got the same freaks out there throwing out their crap. The Canadian Medical Office saying no vax, no freedom. And the COVID, and of course, I believe everything Big Pharma tells us. Why shouldn't I believe them? How many people are dying from opiate addiction and everything else? And you look at the commercials, these stupid ads, and half of them tell you what the dangers are, the crap that you're taking. So no, nobody I know is taking it.
We've heard perhaps most of the deaths from the 1918 Spanish flu were actually caused by the wearing of face masks like the ones people are wearing today. Could the depopulation eugenicists get their way through the mandatory wearing of these masks?
Well, again, we write all the data about the ineffectiveness of the masks and the deadliness of the masks. In one of our Trends Journal covers, we had the baby Jesus in a manger with a mask on, and we had Buddha sitting on a lotus blossom with a mask on, and Moses with his 10 Commandments with a mask on. They're making this crap up. These are the same idiots that had us hiding under desks in case an atom bomb went off, like that was going to save our lives. No, this is just it's a dehumanization. It's people following the orders of their dictators and killing them at the same time. It's not healthy to wear these things continually. I watch people walk down the streets with nobody around, because the streets are dead now. They're dead. The businesses are dead, and they got masks on. People driving in cars with their windows up with the mask on. Grow the hell up!
Whether by design or accident, small and medium-sized businesses are being wiped out along with economies. Are parts of the world headed for a very deep depression?
No, it's the greatest depression. It's one of our top trends for 2021. But here's what they're going to do. Look, if you're living in Venezuela, Argentina, Chile, you're living in any of these countries, all around the world, Iran, and life is terrible. You don't know that you're in a depression. They don't tell you you're in a depression because the rich are still rich, the equity markets are still going up, so people don't know how bad it is. So they're artificially propping it up. They'll give the plantation workers of Slavelandia a couple of bucks to make them happy, and people don't know how bad it is. No, this is so you're going to see a false recovery. But it's going down. But in the real world, it's down very big. As a matter of fact, you have that Dr. David Williams. Hey, Doctor, screw you, from Ontario's chief medical officer, a little boy that sucked his way up and bowed down to get it up. You know what? So he could become a bureaucrat to say that he cannot force someone to take the coronavirus, but anyone who refuses will no longer have the freedom, quote, to move around. What we can do is to say something to say sometimes the access or ease of getting to certain settings, if you don't have vaccinations, when you're not allowed into that settings without other protection materials. All right? You can't get in there. Who's this little piece of garbage telling you what to do? And the people do it.
Well, I've just saw a headline here that says UK warns people with serious allergies to avoid Pfizer vaccine after 2 adverse reactions. How the hell do you know if you're allergic to it or not until you take it?
Again, it's crap that they're pushing out there. The government's they're stealing our money and the taxpayer money. They say you get the vaccine for free. They're giving these people billions of dollars. It's the military-industrial drug complex in charge. Look at the shape of people. Look who's dying from it. Look at the death rates in America. Most obesity, type 2 diabetes, 42% of Americans are obese. Keep eating that junk food. Keep drinking that crap. Don't exercise. Take that drug. You'll be okay.
Is there a difference between a severe recession and a depression?
Yes. Yeah, the depression is when you have like over 25% of the people that are in poverty, dire straits, and out of work and can't find anything. And that's what we're going into. All these college towns that are closed down have become ghost towns. All these young people, they can't find jobs, burdened with debt. Young people, why should I go to college? What am I going to do? Where am I going to get a job? No, the depression's much worse.
It looks like there was massive voter fraud in the 2020 U.S. election, and the election is in the Supreme Court. We're hearing President Trump, under a military operation, set a voter fraud trap. What are you hearing?
Well, my feeling is that if it goes to the Supreme Court, at first I thought Trump would win, but now I see that the Supreme Court, like these little jerk-plagued bureaucrats, doctors, they're all a bunch of scum. You only get those positions by being a member of the club. The dirty, rotten, murderous, stealing, criminal club. The ones that start wars based on lies and steal our money to give to the too big to fails. So the Supreme Court judges, a lot of them aren't going to fight the system because they're part of it. So it looks like Trump's on his way out.
Who do you predict will be inaugurated January 20th?
Biden.
What kind of reaction do you think there's going to be?
Little, temporary. If Biden lost, then you would have seen all the Black Lives Matter and Antifa out in the streets. But now they're happy. They got a guy with a criminal war record that is excellent. Not a war that murderous lowlife didn't love to vote for and support and steal our money to give it to the too big to fails. Oh, and by the way, the guy that he's going to bring in for the Secretary of Defense, yeah, on the board of directors of Raytheon, the big military-industrial complex group over there. What a joke.
Was President Trump's one of his greatest accomplishments was not starting a war, one of the few U.S. presidents ever not to?
Yeah, no, he was one of the, although he did some terrible things with Iran and Venezuela, he kept us out of wars, and he's bringing troops home, and he's lowering the numbers in Afghanistan. But nobody talks about that. By the way, December 7th, not too long ago, was the day that Pearl Harbor was bombed. Didn't make the American news. November 22nd, 1963, when November 22nd came, didn't make the news. That was the day JFK was assassinated. So that shows you the spirit of America. There isn't any. People don't know anything that happened. They don't know what's going on. All they do is they turn into the mainstream news and swallow the crap that's being shoved down their throats.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I noticed on the American news they didn't mention Pearl Harbor Day.
No.
And as far as I can recall, that's the first time that's ever happened.
Yeah. No, I follow every year. I know about JFK because I do that every year because I was with John Connolly. He was the governor who sat in front of JFK and took the bullet in his back. And I have a picture of me, him, and his wife, Nellie, in front of the book depository, 1992. He wanted to meet me. It's 2 weeks before the election. And it was the first time back since the assassination. So I was with him for quite a while, several hours. So I always write about this, about how they never mention the assassination of JFK on the day he was assassinated.
We'll have more with Gerald Celente right after the break.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
This Week in Money is archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Gerald Celente. Gerald, gold put in an outside month to the downside on the charts in November. Do you see a bullish case and a bearish case for gold over the next few months?
I see a bullish. The governments are only artificially propping everything up by pumping all this money in there. And it's digital cash backed by nothing and printed on nothing. And the whole world is doing it. And again, the markets are rigged. And that's not a conspiracy theory. The criminal group, the J.P. Morgan Chase criminals who got caught rigging the precious metals market, they were fined a measly $900 million. And so it's rigged. It's right there. And they don't want gold to go up and silver to go up because it awakens people to how worthless the currencies are. But as much as they do and as hard as they try, we still are very bullish on gold and silver prices.
Do you see the same picture for silver's gold?
Yes, I see silver going higher than gold, actually, in terms of percentage rise.
The U.S. dollar's been on a downtrend since the pandemic hit. Do you think this downtrend is likely to continue?
Yes, but ironically, or I guess the word isn't ironic, but I mean, the only reason the dollar's down is because they expect more cheap money being pumped into the system. But they're doing it everywhere. I mean, why would the euro go up when the eurozone is in such terrible economic shape? Hey, remember, you can't go on a vacation. There's no tourism in Italy and Germany and Spain. No, people don't go there for tourists. No. So the economy's doing wonderful. And again, why is the euro going up? Why are any of these? The only currency I see being of any strength is the Chinese yuan, which keeps going up because their economy is the only major economy in 2020 that's going to show positive gross domestic product growth. And one of our top trends for 2021 is China 2021. The 21st century is going to be the Chinese century.
Did China start the coronavirus for economic purposes?
I don't know if they started for economic purposes. My belief is that they couldn't stop the Hong Kong protests. And when they started locking down parts of China, boom, they locked down Hong Kong. And that was the end of the Hong Kong protests, and they passed a security law, and Beijing took total control of it. They couldn't stop it. I used to be on Hong Kong radio during all the protests going on. And I know that the people I talked to, they were very, very anti-China taking over, and they were going to fight to the end, and now the fight's over. So I think China used it to stop the Hong Kong protest and take complete control of it, which they've done.
Interest rates dropped following the start of the pandemic. Are lower interest rates a good or bad indication of what's ahead?
Well, they're a terrible indication. They're showing you that they're pumping in just cheap money to keep it artificially propped up. And we believe that you may see negative interest rates in the United States.
What's that going to do to pension funds, banks, and insurance companies?
Well, it's going to hurt them deeply. And again, when you look at the pension funds, you take a look at the stocks in America. 1%, the criminal 1%, the bankster buddies, the hedge funds, and all of the rest, the Buffetts, the whole gang of Bezoses and Gates, 1% owes almost 52%, I think it's 51.8% of all of the stocks. 10% of the population owns 88%. So that leaves a measly 12% for the little people with their money in pensions, etc., that are in that equity market, and the rest of it, when they put them in bonds and other return investments, they're getting nothing for it.
With the lower interest rates, people are buying homes and cars again. With the underlying economy in trouble, can this continue?
No, it won't. And you're going to see a big crash in the commercial real estate sector as people are afraid to go out. The big cities, again, we wrote this when it happened. In March in our Trends Journal, we warned that there would be great exoduses from major cities. We were the only ones talking about it. It didn't make the news until April, end of April. And so now people aren't going to work in offices, so the commuting is way down. And all the businesses that survive on commuters is gone. So the big city rentals in both apartments and commercial real estate are going to go down deep, and that big rush out of the cities is going to slow down to a crawl.
If people can work from their cottage or out in the rural countryside, is there a danger that they'll be replaced from people who work in other countries?
Well, it's already happening.
Yeah.
They're passing a law, too, in the United States to bring in more of those H-1B visa people, particularly from India, for high tech, so they can pay them low wages. Yeah, it's going to continue, and robotics and on and on.
Are governments curtailing the production of food under the guise of COVID?
I don't think so. No, I think we don't see a shortage of food right now coming in the future.
Has a significant percentage of the population been brainwashed by the mainstream media?
It's been going on forever. And we wrote about this when it all began. We showed how easily it was for the people to march to the media and the political orders, the same way they hailed Hitler, marched to Mussolini, and saluted Stalin. Every German person I know are ashamed of what they did. I used to ask them, I spent time in Germany a number of times, and I said, what did your father say? What did your uncle, your grandfather? They wouldn't talk about it, they said. Everybody was ashamed that they followed a Hitler that destroyed their entire country. And it's the same thing now. The people are following their leaders. How could anybody believe a politician? How damn stupid can you be to say, I like this and grow the hell up? What's wrong with you? How about thinking for yourself? No, I will not think for myself. I believe in what my government tells me. I was educated in a brainwashed system, and I'm still brainwashed. So don't you tell me to think for myself.
What is the Great Reset, and are people waking up to the Great Reset and what it's trying to do to people?
No, the people aren't waking up to it, just like they haven't waked up to anything else. The Great Reset it's the new economy. The globalists are in complete charge. I'm making that up. That guy that runs the Davos wrote the book on it, runs the Davos meetings. And COVID-19, the Great Reset. And so the bigs are getting bigger. You saw your governments lock down unessential businesses, mom and pops, his and hers businesses, and only the bigs are allowed to stay open. So you're seeing it right in front of our eyes. They keep doing it. It's a Great Reset. They got rid of all the small banks, only put the big ones in there. There's no more. You get rid of all the main streets. We have the Targets and the Walmarts and the Home Depots and the Lowe's. We don't need hardware stores. We don't need stationery stores. We have Staples. We don't need any of you. It's the Great Reset. All you are is a worker in the global plantation of Slavelandia.
Do you think it'll be safer to live in a rural area versus an urban area going forward?
Yeah, definitely in a rural area. Yeah, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose, and they're losing it already. Look at the homicide rates. You don't have to be a genius. Again, we said this was going to happen. This is all old news to us by 9 months. We've been writing about it and writing about it and writing about it, and people want to be deaf to it. Again, there are we estimate about 10% of the population really knows what's going on, and the rest just are brainwashed.
Christmas is just around the corner. Who's on your list to receive a lump of coal, and who's on your nice list?
No, I'm not allowed to celebrate Christmas. You're not allowed to be with your family or friends. Stay home. You better watch out. You better not cry. You better be good. I'm telling you why. Satan Claus is coming to town. He knows if you've been sleeping. He knows if you're awake. He knows if you've been vaccinated. So get vaccinated for goodness sake. Do not celebrate Christmas. Santa's not going to come down the chimney. You can't have strangers in your house. Don't travel. Have a miserable time. Do not celebrate the birth of the Prince of Peace. It's Satan Claus is taking over. He's your president. He's your governor. He's your chancellor. He's your prime minister. He's your mayor. They'll tell you what to do. Now shut the hell up and get back in your house. No celebrating. And no singing. No singing Christmas carols. Your health minister declares you shall not sing.
Where are we headed in the future economic trends?
Again, it's the Greatest Depression. It's there in black and white. Inside out, we write about it. It's happened. But they're going to cover it up. The morons, the imbeciles, the followers will believe, oh, it'll get better. Oh, it'll get better. Don't you remember them all saying that when they locked us down? Oh, it'll get better. Yeah, it was 9 months ago.
What's the latest in health news?
The health news is that there's a segment of society that understands that this is the time to build your immune system, to get in the best shape you can in every different way. Mentally, spiritually, physically, you got to double up. So the health news is survivalism in every different way. Learning how to fight for your life and building your life in the strongest way it can be.
What's your latest globalnomic view?
Well, what we're concerned about, again, is what's going on with Iran and the deep state slaughtering their people, their top people, like they did with the nuclear scientists a few weeks ago. Began the new year with Trump killing Soleimani, the top guy heading their military. And so we're concerned about things erupting because, again, when all else fails, they take you to war. And so you're seeing global economies failing. You get the people's minds off the terrible state of the nation by going to war, just like George W. Bush did during the Great Recession, the Recession in 2001. And everybody forgot about it when they invaded Afghanistan. So that's what they do, and that's what I'm concerned. That's what we're concerned about. And again, there's going to be global unrest everywhere because people are going to be taking to the streets in big numbers. It's one of our top trends for 2021.
What's the latest on Occupy Peace?
Well, right now we're going to be expanding into a whole different field, and we're going to be expanding into freedom, peace, and justice. So that's what we're moving toward.
Are you concerned that if Biden gets in, the people he's penciled in for a lot of positions are ex-military?
Well, that's what we said. Look at the guy, the former general they just brought in for the defense secretary, like Trump did. No, it's the same club. It's the Obama administration back in office. The Nobel Peace of Crap Prize winner, folks. Yeah, the guy that destroyed Libya, folks. The guy that said, I want that guy Assad out of Syria. I want him out of there. I want that guy Gaddafi out of there. Oh, the guy that's quoted in the book Double Down. I'm really good at killing people with all his drone strikes. Yeah, that's all it is. It's more of the same murderous team.
How can people subscribe to the Trends Journal?
Simply going to trendsjournal.com, trendsjournal.com. It's a weekly, no other magazine like it in the world that tells you what's going on, what it means, and what's next, and to help you prepare, prevail, and prosper in these difficult times ahead.
Gerald, thank you so much for speaking with us, and best of the season.
And same to you.
My guest has been Gerald Celente, publisher of the Trends Journal, available online at trendsjournal.com. He was speaking to us from historic Kingston, New York. Coming up, Ray Merriman, next on This Week in Money.
Value from success. Growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
This Week in Money is archived online at talkdigitalnetwork.com.
Welcome back. My guest is Ray Merriman. He's the founder of Merriman Market Analyst and the author of several books on the correlation between market cycles and planetary cycles. His website, MMAcycles.com. He's speaking to us from Scottsdale, Arizona. Ray, welcome to This Week in Money.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure to be with you.
Ray, can you tell us a bit about your background and the Merriman Market Analyst?
Okay, I'm a CTA, which is a Commodity Trading Advisor, since 1982 with the National Futures Association and the CFTC, Commodity Futures Trading Commission. I've started my work in finances in 1978, 1979. I began doing research on the correlation of gold prices to planetary cycle combinations with the urging of Walter Bresser, a well-known cycles analyst, and published the first book on quantitative studies in a financial market involving planetary cycles in 1982 called The Gold Book. And from there I became a frequent contributor to Financial News Network, which was the precursor to CNBC. And then I went to work for Wall Street firms from 1986 to 1994. My last position was Vice President of Retail Commodity Futures at Paine Webber. And I've pretty much been with my own company, the Merriman Market Analyst, all during that time and since that time, which serves individual investors, independent investors and traders throughout the world since basically 1982. And I'm doing it today, continuing to do it.
Ray, can you tell us about your books and especially your new book?
Okay, I've written several books. I mean, I'm quite a prolific writer. I've written almost 60 books now in my life. And 45 of them have been the annual forecast book, and that's what you're referring to, I think. Every year I write a book, about 200 pages, covering the political, the economic, the psychological climate in the country, in the world. And then I specifically go into various markets, stock market, precious metals markets, currency markets, agricultural, crude oil, interest rate markets. And every year I do that, and we sell about 7,000 to our different clients throughout the world, translated in different languages. I've written other books, too, on the correlation of financial market cycles and correlating them to planetary or geocosmic cycles, both long-term and short-term. And I think the most well-known is called The Ultimate Book on Stock Market Timing. 5-volume set that started in 1997, wasn't completed until 2012, over 1,600 pages, 300 pages on average between 5 volumes. And that's become the textbook, if you will, to our Merriman Market Timing Academy, a 2-year program which we get together every 2 years, bring in new students and teach them our methods of market analysis, featuring market timing tools connected with technical analysis, trend analysis, and chart patterns. So that's pretty much what I've been up to, for the last 30, 40 years. And people can buy this book, the forecast book, or any of these books at the website that you mentioned, MMAcycles.com. Go to shop and go to book, and it's right there.
What's the relationship between astrology and the markets?
That's a good question. I look at cycles and astrology, which I call geocosmic studies. I think of these as market timing tools. And market timing are leading indicators. They will identify far ahead of time specific time bands when you can expect a reversal of a cycle, depending which type of cycle you're looking at. So when you enter that time band for a reversal of a cycle, then we want to, use our other studies, whether it's technical studies, chart pattern studies, trend analysis, support resistance, price objective theories, any of those things. So I consider astrology and cycle studies to be leading indicators, market timing tools. I consider technical studies to be coincident or lagging indicators or confirming indicators. And they work very, very well together.
Is the term astrology really correct here? Because I heard you use, geoplanetary systems or something like that?
Yeah, Geocosmics I think is better, or planetary cycles. When you mention the word astrology, people sometimes get confused and think you're talking about the 12 sun signs. Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Those are the constellations known as the zodiac. They have very little to do, in my opinion, through my research, with seeing a correlation with tops and bottoms in markets. What has the correlation is when those planets come together, or when they're opposite, or when they form quarter cycles to one another. Those are the times that you find various financial markets making tops or bottoms, which we call critical reversals. And that's that's the real value of astrology with market timing. It tells you when the market's going to reverse, because what it's identifying, Jim, is the collective psychology. And so the astrology doesn't care whether the market's going down or up. It just says that if it's going up, it's likely to reverse and then come down. And if it's coming down to that time band, it's likely to reverse and go up. So the same signature isn't always a bottom or isn't always a top. But it's probably 80% of the time, many of these signatures have an 80% correlation, that it will be a bottom or a top and reversal. And that's what traders need. That gives them that extra edge, that market timing edge. And there's nothing that I know of that can do that as effectively as astrological or planetary or geocosmic studies. They are very specific for identifying those periods of time, those time bands when markets are vulnerable to reversal.
So you'd rather we use a term like geocosmetic, or not cosmetics, but cosmics?
Geocosmic. Yeah, I like the term geocosmic better than astrology. But if you use astrology, I'll answer it, no problem. It's just that your readers, your listeners might get a little confused because of its association with constellations known as the zodiac, and that's not the big part of what we're doing here.
Yeah, because honestly, planets in our solar system must have a lot more influence on me than a star that's 1,000 light years away.
Absolutely. It absolutely does have a stronger correlation to cycles in human activity. In fact, to me, that's the real pure definition of astrology. It's the correlation of planetary cycles with cycles in human activity. That's the purest form of astrology. And we're looking at planetary cycles, as I mentioned. We're not looking at those constellations that are billions of miles out there. They have minimal effect, I think, on human activity. What has effect is the relationship of those planets to the celestial equator, the equinox, which we call the seasonal points, spring, summer, how far away is the beginning of spring, summer, fall, etc. That's important, that distance, or the relationship of the planets to one another, the angles that they form. They're important in identifying major turning points, major shifts in human activity, such as changes in market, reversals in market price.
Do significant events in the geocosmic cycles tend to coincide with significant changes in the market?
Yes, they do.
The next big day coming up then would be December 21st, the first day of winter. What's going to happen then?
That's a big one. This is the Jupiter-Saturn. These two planets come together in the heavens. They do it every 20 years. For instance, if you go back 20 years ago, you have a very similar combination. Not only do you have Jupiter with Saturn, but they formed the quarter cycle, 90-degree square aspect, we call it, to Uranus. That happened also in the spring of the year 2000. And it's happening again between December 21st, that's the Jupiter-Saturn, and February 17th, that's the Saturn-Uranus square. So if you go back to April of 2000, when you had a very similar aspect, and it's very rare to have these three planets in this same type of an aspect. If you go back to April, you'll see that the NASDAQ made a high, an all-time high, 1 month before. And for the next 2.5 years, you had the dot-com bubble burst, and NASDAQ fell 80%. That's the same aspect, or well, very, very similar aspect of what we have coming in effect between December 21st, that's the first part of it, and February 17th. So we'll see if we get a pattern similar to what we had in 2000. The market made an all-time high then, too. The Dow made an all-time high in January of 2000. NASDAQ made an all-time high in March of 2000. And by October 2002, they had fallen, 36% in the Dow and 80% in the NASDAQ. So I know everybody's bullish right now, and if you look at all your charts and all your technical indicators and patterns, yeah, there's reason to be bullish. Everything looks bullish. It hasn't turned yet. But here's where astrology or geocosmic studies come in handy. You look back in the past, you see those same type of aspects, and you're prepared. You get prepared because no matter how bullish people are, you're going to get reversal psychology. You can go back to time before that too. I mean, 1980, 81 was the last time Jupiter and Saturn hit. That was also a big recession was just starting up then. So these are troublesome periods when Jupiter and Saturn come together if the economy is going up into it. Usually it has a big 9-month orb, but even most of those times it's within 5 months. But this time I think we can get it within a couple months. I think if we look between December and let's say March, you're gonna, this is telling me that you're having a big, investor sentiment reversal. Investors are very bullish right now. I think by the end of March, you'll see that sentiment reverse.
We keep hearing various markets are manipulated. Could cosmic geophysics be providing the market manipulators a roadmap?
I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's possible. We like to think that people study astrology see the connection between the macro and the micro. Between as above, so below. Then they have a consciousness that supports the idea of integrity and ethics, and helping your fellow brother and sister, your fellow mankind. But there are people out there who are obviously very greedy, and they don't care what the means is to get to their end. And if they think astrology can help them manipulate the market, they're going to do it. I don't do it. I don't know anybody who does use astrology to manipulate the market, but it's possible.
Mm. And when you said March, could we have the old Julius Caesar beware the Ides of March?
Jim, I think I don't know about that. I think what you might see is something similar to last year. Remember, by February, the markets were all making all-time highs then, too, and then the pandemic struck. It actually came in mid-February, but within a month, by the end of March, markets were down 35-40% all around the world. I wouldn't rule out that possibility again, that we could see something peaking, let's say between this month, December, and February. I don't know exactly when in there. I mean, the ideal point would be around January 17th when the Jupiter squares Uranus. That's the ideal peak. And even within that, I'd like to give it about 2 weeks. But I think if you're seeing a peak around the middle of January, I'd be careful into March, whether it's the Ides of March or it's just an annual pattern that's following a pathway like we had last year. I'd be a little careful.
Sunspots and the markets, is there any correlation?
There might be. Sunspot cycle is about 11 years and a 22-year cycle. And I talked about Saturn-Uranus, which is a very, very important cycle correlating with financial markets, especially the stock market. Saturn-Uranus is a 45-year cycle. Every 45 years they come together. Every 11 1/4 years they come into a quarter cycle. And that correlates with the sunspot cycle, it seems to be. And that's coming up in 2021. We got the Saturn-Uranus, and I think the sunspot activity is picking up in 2021. So there probably is a correlation. Nobody's done it, the formal study on it. I haven't done the formal study, but that's where I would start. Saturn-Uranus related to sunspot activity.
We'll have more with Ray Merriman next on This Week in Money.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com. This Week in Money is archived online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ray Merriman. Ray, let's take a look at 2021 using Geocosmics or Astrology. First, the Dow has broken 30,000 points, something people said would never happen. What do you see ahead for the Dow?
I see a top by March, as I indicated, a sizable decline to happen somewhere between March and June, another rally that ends before October, and I don't know if that second rally is higher or lower than the first one. And then I see a big decline into 2022, give or take 1 year, that will exceed the decline we had in 2020, which was 38% the Dow. I expect the all-time high to be about 100% increase in the low we had last year. March 23rd, we had 18,213. Now, the studies I did in the 4-year cycle says that was a 4-year cycle. March 23rd, 2020 is a 4-year cycle. The highs usually take at least 1 year after that, and sometimes it's just a secondary high, not a new high. But usually get a rally where you don't get a big decline yet until you get at least a year. So I think you're going to see this go up to, somewhere between March and October, you're going to get a second high here. And the gain is usually 70 to 190%. The average gain is 103%. So given that, I'm looking for the Dow to get to around 36,000, give or take 1,000, sometime in 2021. And then I think we have to be very, very careful if this is happening before March or if it's happening at the end of summer, early fall. If we see that level of being hit around that time, you better start honing your hedging skills with the market, I think.
Gold hit new highs in 2020. Are we likely to see new highs for gold in 2021?
I think so, although I've also got to say that the 23.5-year cycle in gold is getting old. Measured from either 1999 or 2001 when it was around $250 an ounce. So we're already late into that cycle. But I don't think we're done making the top yet. Unless we start going below, if we start falling below 1,500, maybe even 1,600, it may be over. But I think it's going to hold that area, and I think we're going to get another rally. We're going to see it above 2,000 again, maybe a new all-time high. But I think it ends in 2021 or 2022. And then I think you've got a 2 to 3 year decline where gold's going to drop 50%. And that would be due in 2024, give or take, let's say 2 years to be safe. But 2024, 2025, that's my ideal time to re-enter the gold market after the next rally that I think gets above 2,000, maybe up to 2,200, 2,300.
Silver hit $30 this year, significantly short of its old $50 highs, which I think were back in the 70s when the Hunt brothers tried to corner or corral the silver market. What do you see ahead for silver in 2021?
Well, my target is $35, give or take $3. Okay, and if we can get above 38, then I don't know where the high is. I don't think $50 is necessarily going to hold it for the third time. I think it could break through there. But if at any time we go below $19.50 an ounce, I think it may be over. I don't expect that to happen. I really think we're going to see $35, give or take 3, and maybe higher than that. But I do see the high again there too by 2022, and then coming down again.
Is the U.S. dollar likely to be the inverse of gold and silver in the new year?
That's another good question. Cycles-wise, the dollar is due to continue falling lower and lower into 2024. However, that cycle is also based on a Republican being in the White House. We don't have a Republican in the White House now. We have a Democrat during a term that would normally be a Republican. So I tend to think the cycle is gonna beat out the presidential party cycle, which tells me that we're going to go down into Biden's first term into 2024, and then we're going to reverse. And I think a Democrat will win again in 2024, and that's when the dollar goes up and gold comes down. So the answer to the question is, for now, yes, I think gold goes up, the dollar goes down, But that begins to change as we get into 2022, 2023. Then it doesn't matter to me what the dollar's doing. I think gold's going to go down. I do tend to think that the dollar will still go up then, but gold, I think, was going to reverse and go down. Then they're both going down into 2024, 2025.
Any thoughts on other currencies for 2021?
Yes, I see the euro continuing to rally as long as it stays above 116. I think we're going to get the high 120s, even into the high 130s. Let's say 128 to 139 is my target next year for the euro, unless it falls below 116. But even so, I prefer the Swiss franc. I think the Swiss franc's going to get to at least 118, give or take, a point. Say 117 to 119, but I think go even higher, because if we start getting crisis, financial crisis and worry going on the market, I think you're going to find, people going to safe havens, and that's historically been the dollar, gold, or the Swiss franc. They sometimes shift a bit, but I think the Swiss franc's going to be the next safe haven when we get a crisis sometime late 21 and into 2022, 2023.
Are we likely to see higher or lower interest rates in 2021?
Well, this does have a correlation to a planetary cycle, a long-term planetary cycle, known as Saturn and Pluto. Every 31 to 37 years, they come together, and around that time when they come together, you get a long-term low or a long-term high in interest rates. So if you look back, the last time Saturn and Pluto came together was the early 1980s, 81, 82. That was kind of an all-time high in the U.S. for interest rates, in the last century anyway. And the time before that was 1946, 47. Interest rates were around 0% then too. So Saturn Pluto is 0 in the mid to late 40s. It goes to 20%, a century high in 81. And now it's come back down to 0, and Saturn and Pluto were together in 2020. So my forecast was that the Treasury market keynote would make highs this year, and interest rates would make lows. Short-term interest rates would make lows. And then they'll gradually go up until you get to around the end of the decade. Then it starts accelerating. So if you ask me, are we going to see higher or lower interest rates in 2021? I think they're going to stay low, but they're not going to be as low as they were in March of 2020. They're going to gradually go up until we get to the end of the decade, somewhere between 2027, 2029. Then they're going to start to rise again. I mean, you're going to notice that they're going to be back to 3-4%, something like that. Increase after that.
Do low interest rates hinder or help economic recovery?
Do low interest rates? Well, low interest rates help economic recovery. Yeah, because people can borrow money then if the interest rates are low, and they will borrow money. And if they're borrowing money, they're going to spend it. And if they're going to spend it, it's going to help the economy. Businesses will do better. When interest rates go higher, then you get home markets, the real estate markets go down, purchasing of goods go down, your net worth goes down a little bit, it's not going up as much. So yeah, low interest rates, I think, help the economy, as long as they're going. Long term, they're a problem because when you have low interest rates, people borrow more. And the more they borrow, the more debt they have, because they think if interest rates are 0, you can borrow money, you don't pay it back. Somehow they get this confused in their mind that low interest rates means no debt. But it doesn't. You still borrow money, you still got to pay it back, so debts increase. And that becomes a problem, and that itself can cause investors to start selling longer-term treasuries, which will make interest rates go up on the long end. So it's positive in the short term, but in the long run, it becomes a problem if debt increases with it, which is usually the way the cycle goes.
What do you see ahead for crude in 2021?
I'm still bullish on crude. I think that low we had in April was historic. It's a long-term cycle low. I don't see crude oil going below $25 for a long time, and I think we'll be well above $50, even $60 a barrel into 2021, even higher into 2022. I'm bullish on crude oil for a good year and a half from now.
What do you see ahead for grains in the new year?
Well, this is an interesting one. The Saturn-Uranus quarter cycle coming up in 2021 is usually associated, from what I'm looking at in my studies, with higher prices. In fact, maybe even record high prices in the wheat market. So wheat I'm especially bullish in. But I'm bullish in all the grains. I'm a little bit concerned about soybeans right now because my friend Charlie Head, who's one of the best GAN analysts I know, sent me a chart this week, and in this chart he shows that the way that soybeans are going up is exactly how it goes up at a 60-year top, and he's looking for a top right here. And so I'm a little bit wary about soybeans. I was thinking soybeans were going to go to well into the teens next year. So let's put it this way: as long as soybeans stay above $9 a bushel and even $9.50 a bushel, I'm going to stay bullish on them. But if he's right, and we're seeing a top here around $12 a bushel, and we're going to go down quite a bit, then, if we start breaking $9.50, I have to defer to him, over my understanding of cycles. His cycle crest becomes more accurate, I think, more predictive oriented than my long-term cycles related to Saturn and Uranus, which is usually a disturbance in the supply distribution chain. And so there's a breakage in the distribution, and I think that disruption in distribution is going to cause greater demand because people can't get the market products that they want in 2021. I think they're going up.
What do you see ahead for Bitcoin in 2021?
Bitcoin. It's in the price range now for my target. This is in forecast for 2021, which comes out next week. And I wrote this in early November. It's been over a month ago when Bitcoin was, trading somewhere around 10, 11,000. And my forecast was that it would get to 15,000 to 25,000 this year, and maybe even into early 2022. It's in this boom bust cycle, and the boom is 15,000 to 25,000. Well, right in the middle of it now. We're at 20. We got to 20,000. We dropped down to 17,000 the last couple of days. But the point is that this is a boom part, and once this is over, I think Bitcoin's going to drop 73 to 93% real quickly, and this will be done by 2024. So I was expecting the high to be 2021, maybe into 2022, and then boom, it's going to drop 73 to 93%. I'm just wondering if maybe it's coming in earlier than I thought. That it's happening in December. I don't think so. I think we might drop back to 15, 16,000. We start getting below 15,000, I'll get concerned that we're already on tap, for that drop back under $5,000 a Bitcoin. So I'm bullish on it, but I'm a little bit cautious because we're already in the middle of the price range I'm looking for. I still think we're going to get closer to 25,000, and then I think we're going to drop really hard, 73 to 93%.
Can astrology predict real estate booms and busts?
Well, as you know, Jim, it depends a lot on location. It depends a lot on central bank interest rate policy and liquidity that they make for people, and especially young people buying homes. I'm looking for 2 more recessions this decade. I'm looking for a recession in 2022, give or take a year. I'm looking for another one in 2027, give or take a year. And I think when you see recessions, people aren't buying homes then. So whether it can predict real estate booms or busts, I'd have to say it's indirect. It's better at predicting recessions than it is at real estate booms and busts, because there's a difference. There's a lag time there. But because I'm looking for a recession in 2022, give or take a year, and I'm looking for another one in 2027, give or take a year, I think it's going to create some problems with the real estate market then. And if you're thinking about being a buyer in real estate, I would wait. I would wait to those times. I wouldn't be buying right now. I'd wait to 2022, give or take a year, or 2027, give or take a year.
Can Geocosmics predict recessions and depressions?
To a degree, I believe they can. But as with all things with astrology, if you see the cycle and what it's done in the past, the correlation with the past, and you see it coming up again, like you see a recession cycle coming up, this aspect's correlated to recession 9 of the last 10 times. And you think, well, there's a high probability of recession coming up. Then, the decisions, the policy decisions by our political and central bank leaders can affect that. And I'll give you an example. We saw this happen in 2008 to 2015. You had these big astrological, big planetary cycles. If you go back in time, since the United States was founded, every time they've correlated with a big recession and a crash. And it was a 7-year one, 2008 to 2015. Well, we went into that recession. We had that recession late 2007 and it went all the way through 2008. And I was expecting it was going to go further. But that's when Bernanke went into the monetary easing, the quantitative easing and the zero interest rate policy. He had the right antidote to solve the problem that wasn't used in the past. In the past, central bankers would raise interest rates. He lowered them. He made liquidity his main objective. And he stopped the cycle before it got out of hand. I mean, yes, the stock market dropped 55%, but it was due to drop over 75%. He caught it in time. And that makes me wonder if maybe he knows something about astrology, because he did make a comment once that astrology makes that the astrologers make economists look smart. Or economists make astrologers look smart. So I kind of wonder if he knows a little bit about astrology. He saw this cycle and he did the right solution and stopped it before it got too far out of hand.
Ray, what do people say to you when you tell them that you incorporate Geocosmics along with your technical analysis?
Well, if they're open-minded, they're excited, they're interested. A lot of traders love the work that I do because it's market timing and they want that extra edge. Knowing market timing with technical analysis gives you that extra edge, but the two together is remarkably useful and valuable. So traders like it. It wasn't unusual to go on the floor of the CME or the Chicago Board of Trade back in the 80s and 90s, and you'd see them carrying the Trader's Almanac or Ray Merriman's forecast book because they want to know what are the critical reversal dates they're prepared for. The traders like it. I would say the investors, the buy and hold people, they don't like it. They don't want anything to do with it because it's too hard of work. But two, I would say they're basically lazy, and they keep falling back on this idiom that, if you hold your position for 10 years, you'll always come out ahead. Well, that's fine, but, and they always say that when the market's making new highs, that market timing is a fool's errand. Well, yeah, if you're making new all-time highs, it is. But they weren't saying that in March when the market was down 38%. They only say that when you're making new highs. So that's my pet peeve. With buy and hold traders. I think you should have a core position you believe in long term that you only make adjustments with every 4 to 10 years or something. But I do believe it's good to tweak and trade in between them to capitalize on these movements, and you can time the market fairly accurately, and you can improve your overall performance with market timing tools. They do exist. They are consistently in the right time band, and if used properly with technical analysis, you can get price to match with time. Maybe you don't get the exact bottom, although many times I've had, and maybe you don't always get the exact top, although many times I've had, and I do think it can improve your performance if you use market timing tools like astrology, like cycles, in combination with your chart patterns. I think it's a great, great valuable asset to have.
How can people find out more about Merriman Market Analyst and your new book, Forecast 2021?
Well, they can call our office, 1-800-MMA-3349. That's 800-662-3349. Or they can go to our website, MMAcycles.com. MMA is Merriman Market Analyst. So MMAcycles.com, go to shop, and then open up the whole list of other menu items you can look at for education, for Market Timing Academy, which starts up again January 16th. It's a 2-year program. There's nothing else like it on the planet. It goes every week for 26 weeks a year for 2 years, 2 hours on the webinar. And you'll learn these skills on market timing, how to apply to become a market analyst and a trader. And that's where you get all this information. Go to our website, MMAcycles.com.
Ray, thank you so much for being on This Week in Money.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure talking with you. Take care.
My guest has been Ray Merriman. He's the publisher of Merriman Market Analyst. His website, MMAcycles.com. He was speaking to us from Scottsdale, Arizona. And that wraps up our show for this week. We'd like to thank our guests, Ross Clark, Gerald Celente, and Ray Merriman. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions for the show, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Engineer Gold Mines, AMY.V Resources, Golden Arrow Resources, and American Manganese. Coming up, a company showcase update from American Manganese CEO and President Larry Reaugh. I'm Jim Goddard. We'll be back next week with more This Week in Money.
Comments made on This Week in Money are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. This Week in Money is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated. Executive producer is Tom Allen. Welcome to Company Showcase, an advertising feature on HoweStreet.com.
I'm Jim Goddard. I'm speaking with Larry Reaugh, CEO and President of American Manganese. Welcome back to the show, Larry.
Always good to have a chat with you on every Friday, Jim.
Larry, more positive news pouring into American Manganese. Can you tell us about it?
Well, today, Zarko Miselja, our CTO, did a presentation on the Benchmark Mineral Intelligence Battery Sustainable Summit, and he did an excellent job of describing the company's assets and their process, and there was a couple other companies on there, but I think we had the most disclosure. So, it started out to be a great day, and we expect to benefit from that in the coming week. It is just one of the many things we're doing. On Monday, we announced that the crews were moving out to the Wendon stockpile. The work went very well down there, and they're just finishing up, and we expect to have some more news on that next week. It's great that now we have not just the recycling to talk about, but we also have the treatment of the Wendon stockpile into electrolytic manganese metal over the next close to a year. And we also have anticipating the up-and-coming spin-out of our properties, our metal properties, gold, copper specifically, and some rare earth properties going into a new spinco. And so we've got a lot of work in here, and but that's okay. We're looking at other things to increase the visibility of the company, and that's always ongoing. We've had lots of interest from battery manufacturers, EV car manufacturers, and over the last couple of years, and it works out to I can't give you an exact number, but somewhere between 30 and 40 companies that have contacted us. And we were happy to present our process and do tours of the pilot plant. Now we're doing virtual tours, and we'll have one on Monday. But it's an exciting time. We're coming up to a new year in 2021. As you know, I've tried to forecast the markets, and I've been pretty right when I said it was a V-shaped recovery. I think I was one of the first ones out there to say that back in early April or late March, and sure enough, that's what we've had, including our own stock. And it's now I'm looking at a very powerful bull market coming up in by the end of this year, if not early next year. And where you'll see a lot of activity, and not just in the technology area where we are, but also in the mining area. So it's it's an exciting thing to look forward to. I know most people are calling for a crash, but they were calling for a crash back in March too. So I think that things are a little bit different. The Robinhood investors have changed the whole scenario and the art of investing. And, they basically overpower the market with combined millions of Robin Hooders who put anything from $1,000 to $100,000 into stocks every day, and so that makes a big impact on on not only the Dow and the Nasdaq, but it will be making an impact here in Canada. Even though we've gotten rid of our short rule, finally the buying will overwhelm that, and we can go on to bigger and better things. I mean, we've been waiting for this for quite some time. If people remembered 1980 when oil and copper and gold and everything was soaring, and stocks were you could throw a dart at a dartboard and pick a stock, and almost 9 times out of 10 it would go up, and some of those stocks went up 4 or 5 times in a very short period of time that really didn't deserve to do that. And that's when the turkeys fly, and I see another market coming very similar to that. And I think that's something we can look forward to before the end of the year. Let's look at a Santa Claus rally. And I think that's starting to happen. Some of the stocks that I'm following are starting to nudge upward, which they haven't done for the last 4 years, and now they're starting to show a little life, and that's fantastic. It helps everybody. A rising tide raises every ship, and we like to see that. We like to see everybody join in on a big bull market, and we're housewives and be talking about their gains, and that's exactly what's happening with the Robin Hooders and millennials. They are talking about their gains every day. It attracts more millennials, and that's what markets are all made up of when it comes down to the end of the day. So I'm looking forward to a great next year, and we've got the goods. There's no doubt about that. We've been very transparent about it. We have the goods. We've got the final piece of equipment in that will make the final product, and we've got to remember it's not what we want, it's what the manufacturer wants. And if we can fill that bill, then we should be getting some offtakes in the very near future. So, those are quite bullish words, but, that's what we strive for. We don't strive to come up with a process that is not recognized. We're very transparent about everything that we do, and not any other companies out there have that transparency. So they are recyclers. They may be recycling the shell of the battery and the copper and aluminum and everything that goes into that shell, and but doing very little with the batteries, which make up 25% of the cost of the battery. And we recognized that very early in the period when we first got working on our manganese process back in 2009 or 10. And we got the patents in 2012. Cometco was the key to that. They've got a brilliant group of scientists that can see around the corner, and they recognize the potential of cathode materials being recycled using a offshoot of our manganese process, and here we are today. So, great time, Jim.
Larry, for people new to American Manganese, what's the company all about?
American Manganese is a critical metals company. It trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange under the symbol AMY. It trades on the OTC under the symbol AMYZF, and it trades in Frankfurt under the symbol 2AM. It's a company that developed the process for the treatment of very low grades of manganese, which is critical to the United States. And now we have a process for treating end-of-life batteries or scraps. We're focused on scraps, but we have done some end-of-life battery work. And that is certainly the biggest market over the next 2 or 3 years will be scraps, because they're building gigafactories at a hectic pace. And I expect that to continue. And when a new battery manufacturer starts up, their losses can go up to 40-50% in scrap. So, and eventually they might get it down to the norm is about 10, although we've heard numbers from people in the know that say it's between 12 and 15%. So that's excellent. Jim, you can find the company at AmericanManganeseInc.com. All of our data is and our process is on that site, so you can do a deep dive due diligence on us. We're not just out there saying we're a recycler and yada yada yada. It's we're saying we're a recycler, and here's why. So you can get to that site. You can phone here at the office at 778-574-4444. Email me at LREAUGH@AMYMN.com, and I wish everybody an upcoming good holiday.
Larry, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome.
I've been speaking with Larry Reaugh, CEO and President of American Manganese. I'm Jim Goddard. Our conversation took place on December 11th.
Comments made on Company Showcase are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at HowStreet.com. Company Showcase is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.